I do think we need a culture shift in the kinds of pervasive surveillance that we're okay with. And I think that every day, I think that surveillance in our streets and CCTV and flock cameras and all of these things that monitor people in public spaces, we need to stop being okay with law enforcement and the government and private corporations thinking that they can just put this stuff up. I think we need to push back, and I think we need to reassess what level of surveillance in our everyday lives we're comfortable with, because it does seem that it's a little egregious when you have law enforcement just putting these things up and we never had a discussion as a society about it. That shouldn't be the way that it works. The government's meant to work for us, right? We vote them in and then they do the things that we want, and we as a society kind of decide how we want society to function, and then it's executed through our will, through voting. That's the idea, right? But instead you have entities acting on their own behalf, instituting these things that we've never had a discussion about. And when we do have a discussion about it, it has to be a very defensive discussion now, because we're in a situation where these things are already commonplace. They happened without a discussion. They happened without us even being aware that they're being set up. And now it's a much harder battle to get that stripped back down. So I do think that as a society, we need to push back a little harder and stop being complacent, and honestly stop having benefit of the doubt. Maybe when things happen, stop presuming, well, it's probably okay, I won't question it. Maybe we can get a little more skeptical as a society and maybe actually ask the questions, is this okay? Are we okay with this? Like, have I been asked about this? Do I consent to this? Like, I would like to bring consent back into the conversation.
Yeah, I completely understand our police want to be safe. I want our police to be safe. I want them to fight crime. I want them to get the bad guys. I want our schools to be safe. I want our kids to be safe. But do I have to give up my privacy for that safety too? So, how do we as a society start that conversation and not look like the crazy one for even bringing it up? You
Right.
know? So, I don't know, so many big questions.
I think that asking at what cost is the most important thing that we can do, because there's a big difference between targeted surveillance and mass surveillance, for starters. And I think a lot of people create a straw man argument when they say, well, how on earth are police going to catch bad guys if you won't allow them to have any sort of tools in their toolbox? It's not about that. It's about how willingly we sweep up every innocent person in society, allow a dossier to be created on allow this reservoir of knowledge of the most personal, intimate details of their life, including their movements, their social graph, their daily habits, patterns, their predilections, whether it's political, sexual, whatever it is. Are we okay with this profile just getting larger and larger and being built over decades and decades in the hope that we might catch a bad guy? Because I think that we are looking at the benefits of this surveillance in terms of it might catch that one bad guy, and we're missing the forest for the trees. We're not realizing that that dossier is making all of us more vulnerable. All it takes is one corrupt person to get into power, and they use that to target people that they don't like. All it takes is one, a person with an agenda to get into power and then use that for their advantage, to amass more power or to hurt certain people. These dossiers are a huge vulnerability for everyday people. And currently, we seem to be okay with them being created because it will help catch one bad guy. And I think we've really missed that balance of power in society is everything. And if we allow everyday citizens to have this dossier created on us that anyone at any time can go back and sift through, it's incredibly dangerous, because we don't know who's going to be in power. We don't know who's going to have access to it. We don't know what their agenda is, but we're just sitting ducks, hoping that a bad person is not going to come into power. That's a terrible bet to make.